Tackle. It is the 5th of August 2021. Tarehe 5 mwezi wa 8 mwaka 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama, umeamka vizuri. Kama unakimbia ofisini, natumai kwamba tayari ushafika ofisini. Kama unajua kali, wanasema pia kazi ni kazi, wera ni wera, mboga ni mboga. Sijui Waluya wanasema aje, ama hiyo mboga ndio yao. Asante sana. This is a Tackle, the Diaspora edition. Na inaanza sasa hivi. Kama kawaida, request that when you join in, please like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us. And after like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch broadcast. Leo tuko na advice Mundalo ambaye sio mgeni sana, na pia tuko na Wanja Maina ambaye pia sio mgeni sana, tulimuona Kasarani kwa TV. Akituambia 1 million jobs per year. We're going to have a discussion today on the state of the nation. Also, state of young. I would like us to have a conversation more on young people as well, because the political season is back, where you're given 50-50 until 5 years later. So, unakula 50 divided by 5 years. Ni kama unakula shilingi ngapi kwa siku?
10 bob.
Anyway.
Mwaka 10 bob. Aya.
Ala? Hesabu ni mbaya tena. Haya. Asante sana, karibu chama, nimekuona. Kama kawaida lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu, alafu basi tunaingia kazi haraka upesi. Mundalo, sijui tuombe leo vipi?
Sawa. Acha niombe leo.
Omba na kirudia, na uteremsha microphone kidogo isizuie kamera yako.
Acha niombe kwa lugha ya taifa ndio kila mtu apate chenye tunasema.
Haya.
Okay, Baba, katika jina la Yesu tunakuja mbele zako asubuhi ya leo. Tunakushukuru kwa kutuamsha vyema. Tunaomba kwamba siku iwe njema mbele tunapoendelea. Katika jina la Yesu naomba na kuamini.
Amen. Yes. Ambia ni lazima unaona Mungu ako busy. Ni maneno tatu. Anyway, straight to the point. How are you?
The shorter the Niko salama.
I hope you don't not about to go to the monkey business. Anyway. So William Wangi, good morning to you. My brother Mundalo to continue our morning team tackle, tuning in from Convent, United Kingdom. Going to be part of this morning's Diaspora edition. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Jared Kimeto, mheshimiwa Tapsago Iward, anasema good morning GB, watching you live from Eldoret. Asante sana, salimia watu wa Tapsago. Tomo William anasema morning to you. Kipi Charles GB, morning to you my brother. Johnson Koech, good morning guys, watching from Britain. Asante sana. Kiparoin Korir Dominic, good morning sir. My name is Kibedi, represent Kondo Farm Keses UG. Asante sana nigiango, karibu. Kama huyu ni mgeni. Haya, Douglas mtafutia makofi hapo kidogo. Huyu ni mgeni mpya. Haya, karibu sana mgeni. Mama wa Kondo, sijai kukuona. Haya. Jinko Pauls, good morning to you. Emmanuel Sadam, morning. Good morning to you my brother. Na ameamusha Honorable Moses Niganet Kebene Niganet na Leonard Serem, all the way from Diaspora na Cheptap Kibiri Rest. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Kama kila mtu angekuwa akiingia tackle na anaamusha watu. Maze. Sahi tungekuwa tumejenga studio kwa Amerika. Lakini kwa sababu nyinyi wachoyo, unaingia tu peke yako unasema good morning na unaenda kulala. Haya, amsheni watu. Cycling Masai anasema good morning sir. Discuss the boys who died in police hands. Hiyo lazima. Si Nakuru, ni Embu. Ama kuna Nakuru pia.
Mimi najua ya Embu.
I think najua Embu.
Two siblings,
the two siblings. Yeah. So we'll get to that, we'll discuss that as well. Stephen Flenson Tomaga, good morning, show iko poa, tunakupata vizuri hapa Thika. Asante sana ndugu yangu Stephen Flenson Tomaga. It's been a long time as well. Kuna jamaa anajiita updates are raise more. Maze. Yaani unaamka tu hivi na mashida. Kabla uende kazi unaanza matusi. Tuko na ujinga. Maze. Mwanaume mgani anaanza siku yake hivyo? Who starts the day like that? Pole sana, ugua pole ndugu yangu. Ares na tafuta jina safi. Kama ni mwanaume weka jina yako hapo. Utujue ni ndume na unajua kenye unaongea. Karaki wa massive following and watching from Kayole. Asante Edward Songo Corona, good morning team tackle tuned in. Asante sana. Kibrona na kuona Antipa Kipkemba Chepkwan, good morning to you. William Mwangi, kindly discuss police brutality sickening now. Hiyo tunaingia direct. Jola Rama, good morning to you. Chairman Diaspora edition. Mutai Charles Silas anasema good morning. Ruchep Kosgei, good morning, tuned in from Milimani Road. Asante. Ibrahim Loshangole anasema tuned in from Kapenguria. Kingsley Momanyi mune jambo sana. John Digi Wanaina, good morning. All good morning to my brother Chumba Edu Kibregod, good morning. Ashak Tackle tuned in from Kapenguria, the best show Kibira bro. Asante sana ndugu yangu all the way from Kapenguria. Pato Kinyita watching from Thika Rodriru. Kimbose Elot Wanja Maina, watu wa Katundu. Haya, asante sana watu wa Katundu wa headquarters. Jimmy Kakia, good morning. Emmanuel Serema mamusha Damaristo aliendanga wapi? Ndio alifungua chama na akaingia nyasi.
Chama ya mashinani something.
Chama mashinani mabadiliko ama siri kwa mageuzi.
Chama ya
mageuzi.
Yeah,
Kitu kama hiyo.
yeah.
Haya. Simon Samuelson Thika and someone from Las Vegas, good morning. Also asante sana. Steven Sorofit, hey brother, asante sana. Sema morning Gerald, Wanja and Mundalo. I'm really concerned about how the youths have been taken around, especially during elections. Yeah, so many good issues are dangled to win their votes and poison their minds to believe their interests are well taken care of. Too bad. It's another con season started. Vincent Ondwari, Mr. Speaker, Oendo kutoka Bisabo. Asante sana Vincent Odwari, karibu Maxwell Tum, good morning. Evans Marmar Murkomen watching from Nakuru, good morning. Good morning to you. Keja Graphics, good morning this evening. Good evening to you my brother from Diaspora, good to see you. This is Diaspora edition. Unaweza ingia pale link nitaichapia hapo kidogo. Samir, good morning. Gerald watching from Mogotio. Masi Chapkwaj, good morning and good to see you. Masi. Wanja. Yeah. Doro. Doro anasema aro. Rosa Doro, hope you're well. Mambo yako najua pending kidogo lakini baadaye. Naona Kavi Karuga ameingia, asante sana. Wanja, good morning.
Safi sana, good morning.
Good to see you.
Watu wa Diaspora, watu wa around Kenya. Niko safi tu, nimefurahi kuja The Taco. I'm a big fan by the way.
Really?
Huwa na watch almost every day.
Na uongeangi?
Unajua sometimes tu niko observe na kulike na kushare. Yeah.
Unatakanga nisikie kisema niko hapa nikusalimie. Zeme Wanja wa Jubilee. Jambo.
Good morning. Nitakuwa naongea sasa. Yes, tuko salama. Watu wa kwetu wako salama. Tunashukuru Mungu.
Katundu.
Tuseme kwetu ni Katundu North constituency, lakini kwa sababu ya haso kidogo tuko Nairobi.
Okay.
Yes.
Lakini ni Katundu.
Katundu North, yes. Yeah.
Wakina anko.
Anko ni nani? Anko ni nani?
Siwa nje.
Well, the president is Katundu South for the records. I come from Katundu North, but really he doesn't. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. Good to see you. Na karibu.
This is a taco hapa ndio tunaongeanga mambo kidogo.
Na
zingine maji yanazidi unga lakini basi.
Bora ugali.
Bora ugali hivi. Haya, sawa, nakupa nafasi pia you introduce yourself to the tacklers, uambie wewe ni nani, unafanyanga nini?
Yeah. Safi sana. So tacklers wa Kenya na wa Diaspora, mimi naitwa Wanja, hiyo ndio jina najulikana. Pale Facebook najiita Hummingbird, ile jina ya madoido. I would say I'm a young active citizen wa Kenya, but professionally niko kwa hii field ya programming na mambo na gender. Nice. Lakini pia niko na a big interest about the politics of the country kwa sababu najua my voice counts na ni wakati muhimu ya vijana wa Kenya kukuwa involved na politics za country yao. So that's what I would like to call myself, na pia ninapenda kufanya content kidogo, blogging kidogo. But most importantly naweza tusema I'm a young Kenyan. Yes.
Thanks also for the good job you're doing.
Yeah.
Pale kwa Hummingbird.
Tunajaribu tu and we are also happy kwa sababu kumekuwa na hizi issues za young people wamekuwa wakispew hatred kwa internet. Na nimekuwa nikishindwa kwani wale sisi ambao tunajaribu kutengeneza good content hawaoni. Najua kumekuwa na hii tone ya everybody Kenya for every mistake wana blame vijana. Vijana ndio wanatusiana social media, vijana ndio wanatengeneza hate speech. Lakini mimi nilikuwa nataka kwa direct pia kuna vijana wana make good content, kuna vijana wako patriotic na kuna vijana wanafanya positive change. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the youth were doing the right thing. Alright, Mundalo, good morning. Yes, nataka nirudi kwa Wanja. Niko na kesi na Wanja. Mambo?
Niko salama.
It's been a long time. You've been missing.
Yeah, it's been some time, but I'm around.
You're around.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, things are not bad.
What's new? Ama ulikuwa umeenda Uganda pia?
Hapana, Uganda mimi sijajaribu kwenda, but I think I will not be blocked. I don't think I'm going to be blocked because I don't think I need permission from anyone. Because I'm not an active public servant.
Kwani public servants when you have to travel lazima utangaze?
Yeah, you have to have authorization from the head of civil service, and that is procedure.
Okay.
There is of course we are putting in a lot of drama around it, but the procedure is that we must have clearance, and this started actually with the Jubilee government. So if there is someone who is supposed to be understanding Jubilee government procedure and Jubilee government protocols, is none other than the deputy president, who is the principal advisor of the president. I'm sure maybe that is even one of the his words of advice that he gave to the president that will let us
tuweke
procedure ndio before jamaa atoke we must know anaenda wapi na anaenda kufanya nini. So this is their procedure. So when they start hitting each other courtesy of their procedure, we sit back and watch. Yeah, and wait for 2022 to hear them sing Tano once more. Exactly.
So what happened to the deputy president was right according to you? That was correct?
I do not agree with what happened to the deputy president for one reason.
Okay.
Because the deputy president has a staff which must be able to undertake common procedure before the deputy president leaves the country.
Okay. But it's not the first time he's traveling.
And this is not the first time. And I'm coming there. This is not the first time. Meaning he has left severally and there has been what has been followed.
Okay.
At the level of a deputy president, I expect that if there is a hitch on his protocol, he can be able to know that before he gets to the airport.
Okay.
But getting to, in my view, humiliate the deputy head of deputy president from around sijui saa sita to 5 p.m. is not a very good indication for the country, whether you like him or not, because it is not about the person of William Samoei Ruto.
Okay.
It is about the office of the deputy president. So whether we agree with him politically or not, we must be able to protect that office, because tomorrow he'll not be the office holder. So in matters office, we must protect that.
Well, Miniki chime in Gerald about your travel. First and foremost, kulingana na vile najua we are part of the East African community. Some of the things ambayo imekuwa fronted about being in the East African community ni free movement of goods,
open territories,
open trade, free movement across the. In fact, there's a time I traveled to Uganda, I believe, with my personal ID, or through the airport. Lakini hata hivyo, in my view, I think some of these issues that I would refer as diplomatic hitches or travel hitches, maybe I believe some things can be solved bila ku make it so sensational, because in the process ya ku make it so sensational, ilikuwa hijacked na, I would say, misinformation, fake news. You could even see some things that were being spoken on social media, issues like terrorism, and I want to believe that's a very heavy topic. And also now talking about terrorism na ku-associate hiyo na the second in command, tukiangalia structure ya government, nilifeel kwamba sometimes, even today, na believe kuna mtu Jomo Kenyatta for a reason or another, hata leave the country. Either passport, either maybe unafaa kwenda a certain country in Europe, na maybe hauna corona certificate or whatever. So na believe kwamba despite the hitches or what the protocol is, I believe hiyo kitu ingekuwa maybe a bit under.
Okay.
Sikuona kama hiyo misinformation na hiyo trouble yote ilikuwa necessary to the extent that sasa ilikuwa sasa hijacked na misinformation na kuassociatiwa kama alikuwa na do bad things for the country. So for me, I feel like it was even uncomfortable for the country. Ilikuwa ili raise political temperatures. Sikuona ikiwa necessary.
And also on the same thing, there's someone who has been brought into the conversation, a businessman, and the Turkish embassy has come out and said this is a businessman, he's a citizen and he does business. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has remained quiet. Even at the point we're talking about having investors in the country, how would you feel as an investor if you went to another country and you feel you're being criminalized, you're being called a terrorist by a government or by government operatives, and the government seems to not be worried about it? What feeling do you get from that?
Well, for me, naeza kwa nikisema the challenge ambayo imekuwa ikiface this topic in my view ni imekuwa, unajua vile wanasema we put the wheat kando na inaitwa chaff, the chaff kando na wheat kando. Kwa mfano, for example, me I want to believe that ule mtu mwenye ako kwa country legally ama illegally ama diplomatic ama permit yake ya kufanya kazi, I want to believe that immigration ndio inaweza kuwa na the real document. But the moment sasa kumekuwa kutokea some funny screenshots ya hotel ile yamekuwa funny screenshot, for example, there is information maybe from the Turkish embassy, na feel kwamba even me as a person who is observing keenly, I was struggling to distinguish between what is fake news and what is not. But certainly I would also imagine that even if huyo mtu ameambiwa businessman tena akaambiwa ni terror, I also believe that we have mechanism and we have because unajua ukiwa kwa country ya watu, if I go to Turkey kwa mfano, niko under the law ya hiyo country, kwa hivyo nikibreak rule ya huko nitapanishiwa depending na law ya hiyo country. If you go to the US, ukifanya makosa utaenda jela huko. So mimi na believe kama kuassociatiwa na bad things kama illegally ama kukua terrorism, I want to believe that Kenya iko na laws ambayo ina deal na watu kama hao. So the question is, ilikuwa necessary kutuambia as a public erase hizo emotive issues because kila kitu sasa imekuwa political, ama kuna laws ambayo ina deal na watu kama hao. So for me, nilifeel kwamba wale watu wali leak hiyo information na vile imehijackiwa, na maybe as you said, maybe the ministry kutoweza kuhijack your topic na kusay this is the situation, it generally is continuing to raise political temperatures for nothing, considering that sasa there is also now the broad discussion ya kwamba DP maybe amekuwa akionewa ama anakuwa akiharasiwa ama amekuwa frustrated. So kumix hiyo issue yote nilishangaa kama ni necessary kwa your average mwananchi ule mwenye in the end ataanza ku make it political.
Okay. I don't know what you make of that, Mundalo, because now the conversation changes completely. Now we are criminalizing enterprise. We are criminalizing investors who would come in. And we are a country now that you are struggling with building an investment.
You know, to me, two things come into the mind.
Because what is the crime of that traveler? He was cleared to get into the country. He was actually cleared to travel to Uganda. So where was his crime?
And he has even stayed in one of our respectable hotels anyway. Yeah. Two things come to me to mind in my view. One is when the embassy releases a statement and protects its citizen. I ask myself, what would happen to a Kenyan citizen outside the boundaries of this country who would be involved in more or less a similar skirmish? Would the Kenyan embassy come out to protect that citizen? That just speaks to how much value other countries are giving to their citizens in the first go. And secondly, if someone has come to the country and is alluded to be a terrorist or to be doing terror activities in the country, we didn't need to wait for that person to be seen with the deputy president for us to act. Because when someone is a terrorist, we are supposed to act from the go. From the time this person set foot in the country, that person was supposed to be arrested. We don't wait until this person is with the deputy president. That is the time we want to say that person is a terrorist. Because we must be able to distinguish, and that is the unfortunate tragedy in this country. We have a very thin line between our politics and our governance. Because we do not separate these two issues.
Right.
When the politics, when it serves as right for the politics, we strip it into the governance in such a way that if the president and the deputy have some issue, government operatives would even go on the side of defending the president or on the side that makes the president look, the deputy president look, be shed in bad light, whether it is true or untrue, even when it affects the governance. Because as at now, in terms of governance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is supposed to come out very clean. That there they should not they should not politic about the issue. But you see now they are silent about this just because maybe it serves some political interests of some nature. Now that is where we get it always wrong, that we don't distinguish and put there a line between our politics and our governance. We keep mixing these two issues for as long as it serves some interests right, for as long as it serves some individual interests right. We must get to a point whereby whether we agree or disagree in government or out of government, what is true must remain true. What is supposed to be standard procedure must remain standard procedure. What the work of the foreign ministry should be, it should remain so, whether it is serving a person who is a friend of the government or it's serving a person who is not a friend of the government. They should basically just do their work in as far as governance is concerned. But the problem here is everyone in Kenya has become a politician. Even the people who are in offices that should be just doing the administrative and doing their work day to day, they have become politicians, and everyone is bending to whichever political side interests them. And that is why our country keeps stagnating.
Okay. Chairman, Arama, Jambo.
Hey, Bwana Gerald, good morning.
You can have your headphones on so that you can listen to Jambo, how are you, sir?
I am doing okay. How are you?
Salama sana, mambo.
Salama sana. Sasa wacha kwanza nianze kusalimia wananchi hapo. Bwana Mundalo, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Wanja.
Hey.
Wewe kwani ni karibu na mahali naitwa Mundoro?
Najua lakini sio mbali sana na hapo.
I lived there for 6 months.
Safi sana.
That's my place.
Good. Karibu tena.
Unaona ninajua kwenu?
Unajua kabisa.
Yes. Gerald.
Yes, sir.
Sasa wewe leo chief alikupatia travel pass ya kutravel?
Siku hizi hata naogopa nikiona airport nywele inasimama. Siku hizi kimeumana.
Siku hizi sasa Gerald, let's talk this seriously.
Yes.
First of all, the boss cannot go to his employee to ask for permission to go somewhere. The deputy president is not under the public service. Now his people, his staff are under the public service, so therefore they are required to get that permission.
Okay.
But for the deputy president, it's just a matter of protocol for them to make sure that wherever he's traveling, he is accorded the respect that of the office he holds. That is where the story should have ended. Now, all these other drama or in between hapa na pale, hii ni upuzi tu kwa sababu we are actually degrading ourselves as Kenyans, that we are so petty to the extent that even when we disagree politically, for whatever reason, we make it so petty that Gerald, hata una drive gari yako kwa barabara, mtu anakuambia ati huku weka indicator. Sasa naweka indicator na mimi naendelea na I'm going straight.
I'm not branching.
I'm not making a turn. Why would I put on my indicator? And then you are arrested for that. That is how petty we are becoming. And to me, it's very sad when I see that. Unajua vitu vingine. And then now when, like Mundalo has said, the Turkey government came out very swiftly and defended their citizen. Mundalo, I can tell you for free, jaribu wewe uende ufanya chochote. Sasa si hao ni Wakenya wanateseka huko Saudi Arabia, wengine mpaka uliona the other day there is a lady who passed and the family was begging for Kenyans to help to get their body back, and the government did not say even anything. Nothing. So sasa wewe unafikiri they are not going to defend you? I will tell you, even here in the US or any other countries, saizi Gerald, for me to book an appointment to go to the embassy, for example, wanakuambia ukitaka ID lazima uende DC kuchukua fingerprint, which is going to cost me money to travel, and if I'm going with my family, it's going to cost us money. The problem is, and we were asking this question, you take my fingerprints, yes, and then now for me to get the new passport, they still again need a fingerprint. Sasa tunawauliza, hizi fingerprints mlichukua za kipande, kwani zimebadilika, mnataka za miguu sasa, mnataka za mkono, mnataka za miguu tena ndio nirudi tena, you take, you know, some of these things don't make sense. And then the other problem is, for you right now, go to the Kenyan embassy uangalie, to book an appointment to go to Washington DC, if you are lucky utapata appointment next year, May or June. It's fully booked. There is no appointment. So these are the problems that we are facing. Unfortunately, even Wakenya wa kawaida, you are facing so many problems that mumefanya sasa unajua, mimi I was laughing the other day, nasema on one hand mnafukuza Miguna, mnamwambia Miguna ingia ndege, mnamweka kama viazi, mnarusha kwa roli pale Molo, tunarusha viazi unapeleka Mombasa. You are chasing this guy out of the country. And then on the other hand, you are telling one person you can't leave the country. Now, which is which? I mean,
Kibicho said he must seek clearance from the president, and the president is in the UK.
So, when the Gerald, if I remember, the constitution clearly states, when the president is out of the country, who is in charge?
Maybe that's why they didn't want him to get out, so that they are in danger.
But then they should have told. Why were they waiting for him to go to the airport? Because this is everybody's security. People know the deputy president's itinerary of travel. Wherever he's going, they have to know where, because they have to arrange for his security detail. Both home, akienda Karen, akienda nyumbani, Eldoret, wherever he's traveling. These are things that are known in advance. So you can't tell me ati the deputy aliamuka asubuhi akasema leo naenda kunywa chai Uganda. Tuende. He didn't do that. This is something that was planned. Why are you saying, okay, the president was out of the country? I'm not going to argue with that. But then why did you leave the deputy president to go to the airport and then tell him you can't travel and cause all this drama for no reason? All it could have taken is a phone call. Mkubwa, there is a issue at the office. Can you come? You sign some paperwork before you leave. Then he turns around, akifika kwa ofisi unamwambia boss, you know you can't travel because you are the one in charge. You can't go. There are ways you can handle these issues instead of making us a public spectacle. Because everybody is looking at us and saying, kwani hawa Kenya, we thought they have some brains. What's happening with them? I mean, and now it has gone beyond, it has snowballed, imekuwa vitu zingine, sijui anaenda consult sijui nani about running the political party nini, all these other, whatever he was going to do, I really don't care. But the manner of how we handled him, and especially with the office that he holds is where I have a problem. Because I have the question itakuwa, Gerald, if the deputy president can be handled like that, wewe mwananchi wa kawaida utafanyiwa nini?
Imagine kwanza mimi
utagongwa rungu bwana hapo, yani my friend. Disappointing. Yeah, it's very disappointing.
Okay. All right. Okay. So also in an interview yesterday, the deputy president has said that he no longer performs the duties that he was elected to do as a deputy president, that the duties and responsibilities were transferred to one Fred Matiang'i, the minister and the CS for Interior. I don't know how true that is, but that's a statement he made himself, that no longer I've been sidelined, no longer given assigned duties, because the constitution says the deputy president is an assignee of the president. He's the one who tells him, vile natumanga Mundalo, hata yeye anafaa kutuma Mundalo ambia enda mahali fulani. Asikia siku hizi atumwi. Sasa anatuma jamaa mwingine.
But at least
is that not a contravention of the constitution?
But you see, at last years, you know, in the beginning of this, the deputy president told us that he is aware. And in fact, before any functions were given to Matiang'i, the deputy president told us that he was aware, and he talked and they had a consultation with the president. And it's only yesterday that I saw him now come out to say openly that his functions were transferred. And unfortunately so. But all this time, the deputy president has maintained an image to make it look as though we are the ones, or the public is the one that is making it look like there is an acrimony between him and the president. It is only of late that he has started admitting it. So first of all, before we even look at why these functions were transferred, we also need to look at why he was dishonest with the public for all this time. Instead of, he would have come out in the open from the beginning. But he didn't. He chose silence. He chose to say that he is aware of everything. He chose to make us believe that he is working in tandem with the president.
Maybe
he chose to make us believe that it's just public perception.
Bibi unaficha uchi ya bwana. Labda alikuwa anaficha uchi.
Sasa siyafiche paka mwisho, ndoa haijaisha. Yes, sasa ameacha kuficha katikati.
Ndio maana kutupa sufuria juu ya dirisha.
If he had chosen kwamba yeye ataficha uchi wa hii ndoa, he would have done it to the absolute end. But now we have seen it has gotten to a point now he's openly saying he's in UDA. He's openly saying that the presidency, the functions of the president have failed at least since 2017, ever since he got into the handshake. He is now admitting that right now. I would be persuaded to think that this is for political reasons, because unfortunately, governments are not known to be popular. And anyone who wants to take over government must always be out of the government or behave as though they are out of the government so that they can then promise goodies. Because when you are inside the government, it's very difficult for you to promise anything. So you must make it look like you are sidelined. You must make it look like you are out of the government. You must make Kenyans believe that you are not serving them because of some reasons. And then now you can stand on that pedestal and tell them, now if you make me president, this is now what I will be able to do. So I tend to think this is purely now politics. The deputy president is just playing politics of survival to make himself more popular, to make himself relevant in regards to the 2022 general election. There is nothing realistic about it.
Kwanza, first and foremost, huyo chairman yule amesema niko karibu na kwetu, nikamkaribisha, lakini kuna mahali ameongea na nikasikia kama naweza want to comment about it. Kwamba alikuwa anaenda travel yake na akaanza kufanya comparison between maybe yule Mkenya ako I don't know Washington. Lakini mimi nilikuwa nataka kuuliza hiyo context ni tofauti sana, because kwa hiyo trip ya DP wale watu wanawake na yeye walisema he was going on a private visit. Na ukiangalia zile siasa, when we look at the history, kuna zile phrases wanatumianga wanasema personal is political. Kwa mfano saizi tuseme kwa mfano, how do you draw the line between leo niliongea kama Wanja lakini kesho nitaongea kama Wanja, ule ni sibling ya watu, tena kesho nyingine nitaongea kama Wanja. Like personal is political in the sense that hata kama ni private visit, does it stop him from being the DP of the country? Na swali na answer ni he's still the same person. Lakini nikijaribu just reflect niseme hiyo the kind of the kind of discussion ya hakuwa na this document, hakuwa na the other document, it also probably tells you about a bit of a disconnect or a challenge in inaitwa camaraderie, ile working relationship ya government officials, kwamba there could be elements of, for example, witch hunt, because I remember when PSK Bicho was talking about your visit, alisema hakuwa na clearance documents, lakini when the journalist alikuwa anajaribu kumprobe ni gani, anasema the DP is in a better position to clarify ni document gani. And also obviously talking about issues like hiyo ilikuwa at the disposal of the immigration official, lakini huyo immigration official they are also working under different kind of the authority and so on. Lakini in the end mimi naweza just probably ask the broader question. He has been traveling. Sidhani hii ni first time yake ku leave the country. And he says, and
to go to Uganda.
Yeah, and
let's even talk about Uganda.
And his office wanasema he has left the country before for the last 9 years. So maybe what is it that they know wale walimkataza
3 weeks ago he was in Uganda.
Yeah, and maybe the question is what don't we know? Lakini lastly, hiyo issue yenye alikuwa on Inoro yesterday, and in my view I loved the interview kidogo. When they were talking with the journalist, you could see the emotion that could not be hidden, that in the past he has always wanted to be probably diplomatic, not to be chaotic. Or I could also think that he was trying to, maybe there were some people who were helping to mend the relationship. And I remember some of us were reflecting and saying, it could be that hawajakosana sana ni kidogo tu. But from
we are not talking.
Yeah, but from the tell-it-all interview yesterday, clearly kuna kashida mahali. And maybe the question would be, hii timing yake ya kusema hiyo story as we are approaching to, it's almost like 10 months to the election. Is it that sasa mekuwa ile divorce yenye inadescribiwa kama it will be nasty, it will be chaotic, it will be messy, there will be victims and casualties. Yeah, so maybe hii timing nimeshangaa kama hasira sasa imekuwa mingi. And sasa amesema vile tunasema huko Islands, kufa gari, kufa dereva, kufa makanga. So maybe hapo ndio nimeona kama alikuwa amefika. Na yesterday even his physical, najua tunaambiwa na wale watu wamefanya communication pia, physical and non-verbal communication ina tell a lot. Alikuwa anakaa worked on, alikuwa anakaa ni kama mtu ana feel frustrated, alikuwa ana feel ni kama ako helpless, maybe hata ni mtu anajaribu. And we have also been hearing voices. For example, I remember the MP of Kamukunji akisema kama imekuwa ngumu si hata basi awache na hiyo job. So the question is, could it be that kuna watu wanajaribu kumfrustrate hadi awache hiyo job? The question is, implication ya yeye kuacha hiyo job ita affect aje?
Ngori kama anamfinya sasa hivi akitoka hapo ni kubaya.
Yeah, so it affect
now as we wrap the conversation on the DP. Now two things. They said is no longer actively the deputy president. They have ripped off the responsibilities. What does that make you feel, especially now that we are coming from an history where we are told the history of Moi? Nasikia Moi alipigwa kofi na kuru na jamaa provincial commissioner akatema matembili. I mean, you can honest where we antagonizing governance, and it's now almost a guarantee. We change the constitution to move from the vice president to deputy president. In an intention to unify the office of the presidency. In fact, when you look at the constitution, the presidency is part of the presidency. We imagine that we're going to protect that office. Today, it's suffering the same consequences it has suffered for the longest time. Remember, Jaramogi Odinga resigned as well because of humiliation. And I remember yesterday when he was asked, what would you do if you are elected as president? He said, if I'm elected as president, I will not humiliate my deputy. Now, how do we end these psychosis? Because then it means someone will be getting into office saying, I know at some point I'll be betrayed or I'll be mistreated. How do you end this madness?
Mi naweza sema perception is reality.
Okay.
Kwa mfano akisema hakui he's still the DP. Alafu maybe hizo context za kupeana, maybe those examples like during the times of the Jaramogi, the times of Moi, you agree with me that hiyo wakati ni president alikuwa na appoint deputy. Lakini kwa sasa ni anakuwa elected kama tu vile governor anakuwa elected wakiwa na deputy wake. But it's the same fate ambayo ina befall the most deputy governors. Some of them wanasemanga to me, I've heard them sharing their troubles. So then the question is, kama yeye ndio DP, tunajua sasa he's part of the presidency kwa sababu alikuwa elected. Maybe then how else can such a person kuwa protected kama alielectua, na inamaanisha watu pia wao walikuwa namtaka. So hayuko at the discretion ya vile kitambo ulikuwa unasikia kama President Moi ameamka tena deputy president vice president wake amemsimamisha kazi na ameteua huyu mwingine. Huyu pia yeye ni elected. So hizo issues za kusema hapatiwi kazi ama hatitiwi kama deputy president, is it that communication hakuna ama is it perception yake kwamba siku hizi hatitiwi vizuri? Because the question is, are they in a talking relationship? Now the other question would be, if they are not in a talking and a working relationship, of what benefit is that information to us? Is it for us to have a general anger towards the president? Ama how can we as wananchi who aliwa elect as a duo do to help him? Maybe nothing.
Okay. How do you end these cycles? Mundalo?
I think
tomorrow me I'll be running for president, will be my deputy.
Yes.
Ndio kujua kama nitakufinya ama nitakuachilia.
I will be loyal. I'll be too loyal.
How do we end this? Because it's very consistent.
In the beginning, Gerald, we have to agree that in the first term of the Jubilee government, Deputy President William Ruto was more or less a co-president in this country. So that also speaks to the goodwill that his boss had for him. It speaks to a lot that they had a very symbiotic working relationship to a point that they started dressing the same. Now, where did the rain start beating down here? We have to also remember that at some point, the president continued begging this country and saying, please let us not engage in political activities. Let us work fast. And the deputy president continued engaging and holding political meetings. The problem is that we are so quick to forget the origin and want to really castigate what is happening now. In as much as I don't agree with the relationship now, but I want us to look at how did all this begin. There was a time, in fact, the deputy president was traversing the whole country immediately after elections as if he was on an election spree. And the president kept begging every other day, saying, tafadhali wacha tufanye kazi. He kept saying this. To some point, actually, even the media started saying that this president is a very weak president. He's an underdog. Yeah, all he says is just back, but no bite. He only talks. Now, when the president started acting, immediately, the deputy president looked like now he has become the underdog and now the person who everyone should sympathize with. We have to remember that at some point, the deputy president categorically did not heed to the instruction of the president. And he pushed the president to a limit whereby now the president had to start acting. Because the government cannot be pushing an agenda that the deputy president is openly against. Because if you are a deputy, your principal work is to advise and support the president. That is all you're supposed to do. So when you have an opinion or you want to propagate your own different agenda, then you come out of the position and propagate your own agenda, because we can only have one leader at a time. One leader at a time. But then the deputy president kept wanting it as to have two leaders at a time. And I think that's where the problem is. And that's when you ask me, I'll feel part of the changes that we should actually talk about and start having conversations over in this country is removing the position of deputy president and deputy governor and taking those positions back to how they were. So that when you are the leader, Bitok, and you feel, I cannot work well with Wanja for the benefit of the people, you remove Wanja and put advice and you continue with the government.
But how dangerous is it as well?
This idea of us having a constitutional office that we cannot get this person out, but then we must keep paying this person and he must continue enjoying the perks of government even when he's not of benefit to the republic, to me is running the country at a loss. So it is not just about having things on paper and saying this person will be there and that therefore that means because you'll not fire him, so the country will run better. Okay, today we have not fired the deputy president, but is he the deputy president? He has said it himself that his functions were transferred. Now, which one is better? We would rather have a country where, when you are the head of state,
you
we
can fire
entrust every responsibility of this country to you. So you don't come to us and start complaining about your deputy. If your deputy is the problem, you remove your deputy, get another one and get the country running.
The same President Uhuru Kenyatta, when he was prime minister, deputy prime minister, he began his campaigns early in 2012. In 2012, April, he was having a rally in Afra Stadium. And Kibaki was still in government. He was a deputy prime minister. He was having a rally. Wachana na hii hata ya kusema ya kuzunguka. He was having a full rally declaration. So, I mean, there's a lot of pretense in politics.
But you know, Gerald, mimi naeza sema, those kind of, you know, tunafaa progress. Sometimes the reason why we do better is when we progress and we look at issues like institutions and structures. For me, I would look at it as retrogressive politics. Ikikuwa ile politics ya roadside declarations. Leo Bitok alikuwa mtu wangu sijui minister kesho nimekutoa.
Kesho mkosana.
And alafu it is also riding on emotions and riding on those kind. It could also even be
because these are people who have voted in.
Yeah,
nilikuja na zangu kura yangu.
So anyway. Your roadside I would look at it as retrogressive.
Anataka kudhurisha kwa mnasikia mmoja alikuwa anakuvutanga lunch time. Unakula. Unasikia kwa news rais alikuwa mtukufu rais Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi leo amevuta kazi advice Mundalo. Hayo wanaambiwa driver sasa anashuka gari anasokana kuacha bwana Molo kwa mlima. Unatembea mguu waziri. So let's not go there. Acha niangalie comments hapa kidogo. Then tuchapandisha conversation kidogo turudi alafu tutaenda diaspora kidogo. Blessed Frank wa YouTube and good morning team Tackle. Good morning to you. Frederick Juma also on YouTube. Good morning, Bitok and your team. Looking forward to a great discussion. Farouk Logs, good morning, Gerald, and your guest tuned in. Frederick Juma, on the issue of the DP, I think he did not report his travel to anyone, and he has insisted it was private travel, so he saw the need of not reporting. All right. Frederick Juma, again, what I can say is that the president is very well informed and briefed on many things, more than us citizens, and is the one who stopped his DP from leaving the country, and the DP knows this very well. Yoyote ingine ni vipindire anasema to hard on it if before he has been clear to travel without it. Why this one? It means that there was and there is more than is being reported, and that government knows kuliko sisi raia. Okay. Blessed Friends, the travel ban is evidence of bad blood towards the DP and being executed by insiders at the OP. Signs of a dictatorial regime. Blessed says the office of the president is very intolerant towards the persons of the office of the deputy president. All right, that's on YouTube. Facebook, let me see what I can get on Facebook. Kamau, hello Kenyans tuned in from great nation of Nyeri. Nyeri in diaspora. Rebecca Karoki watching and listening from Naivasha. Good to see you, my sister. Nixon Luvanda, Pauline Cherop, remember, Akina Tour the Sagasians. Okay. Mera, yani Uru has taken this country down to a dark tunnel. Okay, and some of their tools were protected. Ellen Kwayumba says asking clearance for civil servants was taking place in the 80s. Okay. Joel Arama, Akuona, asante sana. Liz Mburu, asama tuned in from Meru 012. Asante sana Maramara. Asama Mundalo, of course the deputy president didn't want to antagonize the president. It's not that he was not being dishonest, or it's not that he was not being, I think she meant he was being dishonest. Just try to see if the situation could be salvaged. All right. Mera says Uru and this crew are going low. Tuned in from Somalia. Good to see you, Mera. Kerry Kelvin, Gerald, I'm tuning in although a bit late. Karibu. Aska Mebur. Mundalo, some people have some emotional intelligence. They don't just act out of emotions and they Many people with a divergent view see it as a sense of maturity. Kenyans see the boundaries being pushed and many times so. My 2 cents. Asante. Ayubu Nyango, ikatiba ya Raila inasumbua Kenya. Okay. MC Joseph Amisi anasema kisimu tuko ndani. Pia huko ni Ruta jana alifanya watu wakamhurumia ila ipo siku. Haya. Henry Koluma anasema my fear is that the deep state is in active mode right now. Many things has been said by Atwoli. I'm worried. Henry from Birmingham, Alabama. Good to see you, Henry. Kibor Lagat, it looks like DP has reached the elastic limit. If these people don't obey the existing constitution, why do they want to change the constitution? So Alanyeti, Mera, in fact, his silence and trying to make things work out is a good virtue. Okay, the president was saying there should be no politics while involved in full-blown politics through BBI and ODM. Mundalo is speaking as if he just arrived in this country. Uhuru messed the relationship through the handshake. Bitok, you need to challenge some of these guys of yours. Okay, tacklers are there so you can tackle these guys. Okay, Ariki Amasa Gerald, when are you bringing Honorable Ndini Nyoro and Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah? Nakuja Kimani Ichung'wah is coming next week. Bunge kilisium. Mera anasema okay, mera comment yake imepotea. Big Arab Rongoe, Big Arab Samuel, who is William Samuel Ruta that every busybody is talking about. This man is phenomenal. Okay. Jubilee John Karaoke, Gerald Bitok. And then what? Then if what we take Mr. Mundalo advice, that would be an abuse of power. Let the president obey the law, the constitution. Abu Mutai Kibron as Mundalo is talking as if we are also so naive. We have been around this country. He's just advocating psychophancy. Mera, absolutely. It is good leadership skill. Let's ask Mebur. Scale. Some people like Mundalo wanted him to throw tantrums and resign at the airport. And thinking, what thinking is that? Muritu Joram, people think DP is stupid. He knew a long time ago that they will be betrayed by UK. Sam Doa, watching from Doha, Qatar. Uhuru, Okay, Caleb Korir, we have not had this blocking thing for the last 9 years until now. Jordiso Congo, Uru is revisiting on his DP. Haya ni mambo yako pale kwenye watu wa comment section. Arama nakuja shortly kwenu. Wacha tuende. Yesterday, residents of Embu wamechoma gari ya polisi. Banda police vehicle protesting the death of 2 siblings, 19 and 20-year-olds. I think 20-year-olds.
Yes.
Who apparently were arrested by police.
Yeah.
Past curfew hours. And the next thing that happened, they were found in a morgue. And the question comes, we've seen since the curfew rule started, it has been working against the citizens and working for the citizens. We've talked about a lot of police brutality. We've lost lives through the police. When it came in, there was a clobbering and all these other manner of things. It has not stopped COVID. We still have COVID. Yeah. But then again, how do we apply law what's your feeling about police brutality?
Well, first and foremost, I think any sober Kenyan would feel extremely annoyed by police brutality. Issues are extrajudicial killings are issues that any Kenyan, regardless of their political persuasion, amekuwa akifeel against. Just also to pass my condolences to the 2 young men. I believe their family name is Ndwiga. One was doing law at Kabarak, and I believe the other one was in Don Bosco College somewhere, a technical college in Karen. For me, I would say that hakuna mahali kwa sheria ya Kenya imeandikwa ati ukipitisha masaa ya curfew nafaa kupigwa na unafaa kuumizwa na unafaa kukuliwa. And also wakati ambayo mtu anapita curfew hours, it can be explained in many ways. Inaweza kuwa ni mtoto alikuwa mgonjwa, inaweza kuwa wewe ndio ulikuwa mgonjwa, inaweza kuwa funguo ilikuwa imepotea. There are so many explanations. I want to believe wakati hizo sheria za curfew ziliwekwa, mtu mwenye amepitisha curfew hours, I believe there was a fine kama sijakosea.
No, hata hakuna fine. Ulikuwa tu unapelekwa unatulia, hata kama uko kwa gari unaambia tukaa kwa gari yako mpaka curfew ishe. Haya,
tuseme basi hiyo ndio circumstance. Nikitumia ile phrase inaitwa irregardless, ama nitasema regardless. Irregardless yote ya whatever they had done, the young man, I believe they were running a pork.
Kuna mtu ako kwa line ya meat, tafadhali admit.
I believe they were running a pork shop or a pork business in the somewhere in Embu West. It's a big no, it's unacceptable. Sio vizuri kucriminalize vijana. I want to believe that kama wangepelekwa police station, there are ways out. Everybody has a right to life. Na I'm also happy that I saw the Honorable Cicely Barire was also she took the matter, and I believe I saw she had written to the one of the parliament people, she had raised that question. So the question, kwa sababu tumejua vijana wawili na hiyo tragedy iliwa meet when they were nipped at the bud, walikuwa vijana wadogo. Sasa ile swali lingine mimi nilikuwa najiuliza ni wagani wengine wamepotea tu hivyo wenye hawajaweza ku make it to the news. Ni vijana I actually remember ile kafi wakati ilianza. There was a young man alikuwa disabled, alikuwa mentally kidogo akona kashida na hakuwa anasikia. The young man was beaten na huko somewhere in Western kwa sababu ya kupitisha coffee hours. Kumbe yeye hata asikii na elewi ati country imeambiwa tulale mapema. So the young man died. So it is also issues around who holds the extrajudicial and the excesses of the police to account. And do some of these cases hata zikichukuliwa tuseme na IPOA and all the other civil society people, are there people who pay for it, and are there people who take responsibility? So whichever the case, vijana wasicriminaliziwe. Hakuna mtu anafaa ku take life ya ule mwingine, and it was unacceptable.
All right. Okay, Mundalo.
I think the problem we have, Gerald, is when law enforcement agencies always want to take advantage of any new rule that comes up. Because the reason why the president is giving the curfew hours and all these restrictions courtesy of COVID is not to criminalize the country. It is basically for us to be protective and just take some directives to ensure that we are able to control the COVID situation in the country. Okay. It is not to make people criminals. And therefore, when we find people operating or doing anything past curfew hours or breaking any of those protocols, we must be able to ask ourselves the reasons why this is happening. And anyone enforcing the law, that is how they must begin. In ensuring they understand what would be the reason for this and what would be the solution. Okay. The police are supposed to be aware that they are supposed to be a solution-based center and not necessarily, not the kind of police where in Kenya you see when someone sees the police, even when they are doing the right thing, nywele inaanza kusimama, people start running away. Yeah. We should be looking at the police from a solution-based perspective. So they should not always, and see, the more they try to to reform, the more they become the same. Because every time they are telling us that we have police reforms, they haven't changed the name from the force to a service. But you see, service is not about the name force or the name service. It's about what is practically happening on the ground. And these are some of the things that are making the citizens not to trust the police. These are the things that are making the citizens always, when they get into confrontation with the police, that's why you are seeing, the other day I was seeing someone anachukua simu ya askari. And you see social media celebrates such actions because it has looked like now the police and the people are supposed to be enemies. So in as much as we have COVID, we cannot have more people dying courtesy of COVID restrictions than dying of COVID. So these are things that should be taken seriously. And I agree with what Wanja says, that the IPOA and other institutions, when they take up these cases, do they come back to us to tell us what was concluded about this? What was then advised? Because someone must be held responsible. We cannot be a country where two young people will die, and it is just business as usual, and it's not a very big thing, and we have to forget about it, and the country moves on. I think a time comes when we must be able to ask the fundamental questions, and someone must be able to give the answers, and someone must be held accountable, because those were sons of people, they were brothers, they were active citizens, they were contributing to the growth of this country. So it cannot just be business as usual, and we can't just let it lying low. And because of it's been over a year since these restrictions, and these cases have been immense. They have been very many. I think it's time the police IG should come out and just give guidance on what should be able to happen on these. And even if possible, give a public apology to Kenyans, because we have been able to lose so many people courtesy of the restrictions. One wonders why are people even dying of restrictions or of COVID?
All right. Yeah. Okay, Joel, all the way from Australia. I'd like to start with you. I don't know if you've been watching, so that you can crash converse on the two issues we've been talking about as you cross over to the police brutality. This Rama has a head start, so when you come back to him, we'll go straight into the police brutality. Please, Joel, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
Salama sana, boss. Good to see you. How are you? Matupotelea sana.
Well, we are in lockdown, and lockdown here means lockdown. You do not move out of your house. If you're getting out of the house, police are waiting here. They'll give you a ticket. Yeah, $1,000.
Oh, they don't club people.
Yes.
Hakuna rungu huko?
Very serious. No. You just get a ticket.
Hapa ticket ni rungu hapa.
And unfortunate, now that we've started on the mambo of police and lockdown, I'll go straight to the curfew issues.
Yes.
One thing I've never understood, and I'm glad I really do deal a lot with research. I do not understand how COVID-19 roams around at night in Kenya or anywhere in the world. For some reason, we're making it look like it runs around somehow at night. COVID-19 goes from one person to another. I don't know if you realized Delta variant will stay on air for at least 10 to 16 hours in a concentrated area. So our people should be told, especially now, to practice social distancing and to wear masks. And people should take care of themselves, not expect the government to do the same, to do that. We have seen what politicians are capable of. They have vaccinated their children, their wives, and themselves, and left Kenyans to crowd. They're campaigning, and a lot of Kenyans are dying. Here in Australia, especially in Sydney, where I am, today there was 266 infections only out of hundreds of thousands of tests. They know where you are if you have infections through the app. We do not have that in Kenya. There is no contact tracing in Kenya. A lot of people in Kenya, I bet you and I kid you not, have suffered COVID-19, wamepona, and they continue with their lives. It's sad for the people who have pre-existing conditions. They will die just like that without knowing. So issues to do with curfews, COVID-19 doesn't roam around at night. It roams on the air any day, anytime. And the only solution is to stay apart and wear a mask. So I think we should stop political rallies. We should stop going to church. the problem with Africans, we think God operates in a vacuum where if we don't just go congregate somewhere, God is not going to listen to us. We can worship from our own home with yourself and your children and your wives, and God will be able to listen to you. Now, on the issue of IPOA, I think there is lack of accountability in any sector in Kenya. IPOA should have been one leading the way in establishing, or at least publishing issues that are active, or at least that have been resolved, and those that have been archived. We should be able to access those things online. There's a reason why the world is changing. Those would be really helpful in keeping up with what's happening, especially with accountability and disciplinary actions that have been taken, and even promotion when it comes to police. Now, the elephant in the house, the Museveni and the Sarakasi that's happening in Kenya. It's unfortunate that the president and the vice president seems to be really drifting further apart. But as it is, it looks like the marriage is over, and it looks like the senator from Kakamega, is it Kakamega, former anaitwa nani? Somebody remind me.
Halwale ama na? Mesema senator?
No,
Malala.
Mesema former senator of?
The divorce will be messy. So
That's Wetangula
That's
who
Wetangula.
talked about the divorce.
He said
so
former.
it looks like the divorce is getting messy. It's unfortunate, but there are some things that we must talk the truth. Some of us will always stick with the truth. The truth is, the deputy president of Kenya needs permission from the boss, just like any other person working under certain boss. You need permission when you, especially in a country where he's number two of the country. President knows us to know where the deputy is. If something happens to him, God forbid, whom are we going to blame? Him or the president? Especially with the current political issues in Kenya.
But when did he realize this?
Look, politics are politics, and life and all other, international relations, there's big difference, and we need to differentiate those things. So the safety of the deputy president is very important. It was working day. I think the deputy president has a job to do in assisting the president. The president is still his boss, and I'm sure he did his job by, stopping him from, going to do personal stuff. Now, the other issue is the contradicting information coming from both camps. One from the deputy president himself, and two from his own people. Was he going with investor to bring things to Kenya? Was he going to do his own job? The record of Museveni himself is not something to be admired. Kenya is going to an election soon, 1 year from now. Deputy president is running for president. Is that a person we want to be associating with? Whether it's politics, whether it's farming, or whatever that is. I think we can do better than that. So I think for me, I'll stop there. But yes.
All right. Arama.
You see the advantage of sharing names. We think alike. Nikifuata vizuri utakuta we are related somewhere now.
Naweza kuwa mahali, kuna mahali. Kwanza unajua Keses na Mola iko mbali sana.
Si mbali sana.
Kuvuka Zangenga ni rahisi sana. Zangenga ni ng'ombe.
But what Keeper said is very true. Just very quickly before I go to the police issue.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether the deputy president goes on a private, he is still going to be treated. He still holds the title and the office of the deputy president. It doesn't matter what he's doing. He is still the deputy president. So wherever he goes, whether it's a private function or official function, he is still going to be treated as the deputy president.
Yeah.
So let's get that straight. So my only issue with the people who are giving the report was saying that he was supposed to get a clearance from the head of civil service. He's not supposed to get a clearance from head of civil service, but from his boss, who is the president. That's the only person who should give him clearance. Now, anybody working under him, his staff, are the ones who are supposed to get clearance from the Public Service Commission or head of civil service. So that should have been the end of the story. And everything else, whether, president not giving him a job or not, he's the deputy. And anywhere in the world, even in the US, the deputy president is assigned duties by the president. He can decide you sit in the office, kazi yako ni kukunywa chai, unakuja mnapiga picha unaenda, and that's the end of the story. And that's how it's supposed to be. So we shouldn't read too much into this. Now, maybe the president can argue pia aseme, I tried to tell my deputy kuja tufanya kazi, he was busy campaigning and doing everything. So I took the nikampea nafasi yafanye siasa, nikapeana kazi kwa wale wanafanya kazi. So he can argue that way. So I will leave that way. Now let's come to the issue of police brutality. Gerald, I don't understand why, as we are speaking now, why there has not been a statement from the IG or the Interior Ministry stating that the OCS of that police station where those boys were arrested and put in, he is not in Nairobi. He has not reported in the Vigilant House to state how those boys who were supposed to have been arrested, how they ended up being in the morgue. And secondly, the police officers who arrested him and the person who took the intake at the OB at the counter to put them in cells. All those people, whoever was the police on duty, the commanding officer on duty on that day, or that night, whatever time they were arrested, the person who arrested him, all those people, because there is communication, radio communication, there is documentation, OB written, how these guys were arrested. If there is nothing of that, those people are operating as criminals. They should be in jail. Kabla tuongee mambo ingine, those people should have been arrested by now and put in jail so that they can explain how did these two young guys die. They need to explain that. And then on top of that, we need to get an autopsy done to find out how did these young people die. Were they beaten? Were they shot? Unajua sasa imekuanga famous, every time somebody disappears, he is found in the river. Sasa nashanganga, kwani kila mtu anaenda, jameni, most of us don't know how to swim. Kwa nini kila mtu anaenda kwa mtoni all the time? I don't understand that. And until we hold everybody accountable by the rule of law, Gerald, these things are going to continue. Until the problem ni kwamba, the reason why these police officers behave the way they behave is that the politician or the people who are supposed to be supervising them, they use them to do their dirty work. Maybe unakuta OCS anawambia, boss, nataka niko na mshwari nafaa kulipa 10,000. Enda simamisha gari 3 hapo kwa barabara, tuma hiyo pesa niende nilipe mshwari. So the guy anaenda, nimeambia nitoa 10,000, I need to find my 5,000 also. So yeye anachukua 15. So you have encouraged these people and they know what you have done. So at the end of the day, they turn around and do worse things because they have seen you doing something else. So they know, since I know your evil deeds, hakuna kitu nanifanyia kwa sababu ukijaribu kunishtua hata mimi nitakushtaki. So it goes to the same issue. Remember the investigative journalists who went and showed how the police officers were hiring their guns to criminals. And then the DCI comes and says he has never seen that gun that was being shown. Nikasema, sasa huyu, why are you telling people in public you have never seen this gun? Are you telling us you have no idea how these weapons are coming to the country? Then we're in more trouble. Because you as a DCI officer, you are in charge of intelligence. You are supposed to be knowing all these things. At least you should have an idea. So when you come in public and confess and tell people that you have no idea how this thing happened, then we have more problems.
Okay.
It means you don't know your job. You should actually resign. So to me, mambo, jameni, we need to be very serious because sometimes people laugh. Unafikiri it's a joke when you see somebody being beaten by the police, either because they were protesting or whatever they were doing, wanapigwa because they were being beaten. Wanasema ni watoto wa university ama ni watoto wa high school, wamechapwa, wachape kabisa. You are forgetting hiyo kuchapwa na wewe watakupata
siku moja
at your own time. afadhali amechapwa kiboko, wewe utachapwa rungu ya kichwa and you die. So what is worse? But if we hold people accountable and hold people responsible for their job, whatever you are supposed to do, do it the right way and do it within the law. Then all these problems we are having should not arise. So when I see even the DPP, nobody's saying anything. Why have you not even started an investigation to find out the DPP's office? Why are you not starting an investigation to find out how did these young people die? Are you saying that these people, their life is not worth anything? They are Kenyans, for heaven's sake.
All right.
They are people's kids. They are people's friends. And they have died needlessly. Somebody should be held accountable.
All right.
And until we do that, this is going to continue every day.
Until we
It's
stop
not
it.
going- Yeah.
Haya, ama basi umeona sasa wananchi wameamua kuchukua sheria mikononi mwao, wanasema akipatana na makarao ana nini. Haya, now yesterday finally we managed to get some gold in the Olympics, but there's one thing that I've noticed that is that's quite sad, and I noticed from bloggers of political bloggers of a certain side, and they've been ridiculing the athletes, and I keep wondering, when the athletes are doing well, they are Kenyans. When there's a problem, they come from a certain tribe, or from a certain, they're calling them Tanga Tanga, calling them what, that is now bottom up. I mean, how do we want to cheer up these guys. Anyway, guys, if you're watching, all the very best. Keep it going. Yeah. Things might not be looking very nice, but at least keep your heads up. Try. You never know. You could get another goal today. But then again, comes back to Kenyans. How do we reason as citizens of a country?
Gerald, for me, it's really about the psyche, the fight, the at the very DNA of our Kenyan perception of people. It seems that we have been so, ethnically and tribally galvanized and motivated that when a person hears that my name is Wanja, even before they know maybe what are the aspirations I have, they cannot help but look at me as a Kikuyu. Or if we have a sort of friendship with Bitoki, it will be seen, this is a Kikuyu dining with a Kalenjin. With the Tokyo Olympics, of course, I've noticed that there is a lot of the Olympics, as they are coming at a time when we had, Corona. They are called Tokyo 2020, yet we are in 2021. I think as a person who is interested in in sports and competition, for me it was first as a shocker because I was really cheering for Marco Tino, the young man, and then it emerges that there were samples of doping in his specimen. So for me it was really as a shocker, not because of his tribe, but because I was rooting for him. But it's also so sad that some of the young people, and for some reason maybe most of the athletes in Kenya, long distance, short distance, 800 meters, are mostly let's just call it as it is, are mostly from the Kalenjin region and from Iten and Eldoret. For me, I think it is the lowest of the low that we are looking at them as as even Tanga-Tanga. I mean, why would you conclude that those young people are part of Tanga-Tanga to start with? But it also tells you how much we've lacked content and creativity, how much we cannot critique sports as a competition, and that we are so lazy in thinking, we should be having broader and deeper discussions like what were the challenges in training during Corona, what were the challenges in terms of motivation, what were the challenges maybe in the weather in that country. Those are the broader conversations that we've not made it, we've not gotten many medals compared to maybe in the past. But the moment that we degenerate into looking at those young people who are hoisting our Kenyan flag, they had a uniform that I thought is good looking, but not many Kenyans thought that way. I think for me that's degeneration. It's the lowest of the low. They are, they are Kenyans, and even looking at them by their tribe, they would also be offended, I would imagine. So it is also maybe telling of the state we are as a country, the political period, where we just degenerate and we don't really critically look at issues. Yeah. Maybe a red flag in what we are headed towards in 2022.
Mundalo, to you as well. And I would wonder what is going on then at AK, because I remember Julius Yego came out before the Olympics and he was saying the running of AK and the management of AK is below par. And he had actually predicted that we'll have a problem at the Olympics. He said we are going to have a serious problem. We're not going to win anything at AK. But then again, how do we politicize national heritage?
You see, it still speaks to the original problem that I told you, Bitok, at the beginning, that our problem as a country is we politicize everything, even when it's unnecessary to do so. Because as it stands now, the art of sport in itself is in winning and losing. That is sport. It's win or lose. You can't win all the time, or you can't lose all the time. So we cannot be able to say we will celebrate these athletes only when they win. But when they lose, then they become Kalenjins, and then they become Tanga. And what is even more annoying about it is the reality that even the country and the sports ministry itself cannot come out to castigate these, because they must be able to be on the forefront to say this is wrong. Our sports men tried. This is what they were able to do. We'll check on what the challenges were and rectify for next time. Because when Diego says there will be a problem and predicted that there will be a problem at the end, and then there was this thing that was running all over social media. I don't know how true it is. But if it was true, then it was very unfortunate. Like, the country is taking about 200 people to the Olympics and about 100 officials to the same Olympics. That our officials are almost half the number of the people who are going to compete. Yet we're having a country that is taking over 2,000 people and 20 officials. Sometimes these are the problems that emanate with our sport. Because we cannot be able to be taking our sportsmen outside there to compete on an allowance of, say, 10,000 shillings. And then we have an official from the ministry who is also going to the same place, not to compete, but just to be in the name of being an official from the ministry. And then we are paying this person 50,000 shillings. It basically will not make sense. It does not motivate the participant of the sport himself. Because this participant feels, I am the core business of this trip here. Why would I be earning lower than the other person who is just an official? So these are the things that must be addressed, and this is the reality that is there in sports. And not just even for the Olympics. We have seen this in football, we have seen it in other sports, that every other time we have officials taking more center stage than the participants of the sport. And that is why even by the time we're having our Kenyans taking the track, they're already demotivated. They already they don't have the psyche to even go and win, because we have an official who is just sleeping in the hotel room and doing an Instagram live, and this official is earning more than this person who has to train on top of the hills and in the terrains just to go and keep the name of this country. So the Ministry of Sports and the CS must be able to take up this matter with a lot of interest. That let us be able to take good care of our sportsmen and women, because these people give our country a name internationally. They're able to keep us high. They make our flag raised in international fora. So let us not take them for granted. Let us treat them with the respect that they deserve. And that way then we'll be justified to even complain when they do not give us results. But if we're not treating them as required, but want them to treat us as required, then that is actually corruption.
Yeah, speaking of sports, Bitok, and I think when you're talking about the Tokyo 2020, 2021 Olympics, let's also go back to the last Olympics. I believe it was in Rio in 2016, 2017, if I'm not wrong. You also remember the amount and the magnitude of the corruption that it even costed. There was CS Wario, and he even had a court case. I remember him in Parliament. But also sometimes when we are talking about democracy in Kenya, sometimes we also assume that it's democracy in political positions only. But I would want to believe that democracy should be in all other institutions. Remember, some of these positions, and when you're looking at broadly at sports, as recent as last week, the FKF president, Nick Mwendwa, I remember he fined AFC, and he fined these are the team, what is it? Gor Mahia. I want to believe 10 million. And you know, some people would ask, who give him that amount of absolute power to decide which team does not, because by virtue of being a president? Remember, these kind of sports are sports helps in development of a community. Sports is a source of employment for young people. How can he wake up and discreetly decide who will be in the Premier League and find them, such astronomical amounts? I also think that I've noticed a lot of, I think it's structural discrimination, because we've seen a lot of premium and a lot of media highlights on the Olympics, but you're also forgetting that this is the Tokyo Olympic and the Paralympics. And I also think that as a country, we don't give a lot of premium and a lot of media highlights on the Paralympians who are also sports people. I think that is something that should be improved. Remember also, Paralympians, they have always said that they are not paid the same amount, for example, when they get a gold for the country compared to the Olympians. And I think that also is a broader discussion on advocacy and the role of athletes with disabilities and the amount of pride that comes with them raising the Kenyan flags. And I think the media should improve by giving them a bit of more coverage.
Okay, I think that's important as well. Just to pay attention to that. I'll come back again to you. I'll start with you, Kips. Now there are two Joels now. Kips in Sydney, Australia. I'll start with you, then I go to Joel. Let's see if you're available. All right.
Yes,
your comments
I
at the
am
same time.
available.
Yes.
So we're talking about the sports,
Yes.
and what's happening in Japan.
Yes.
One of the guests alluded to what happened of what came of the audit that was done stemming from the Rio Olympics. We haven't had much of it. In fact, we saw a lot of even clothes or the kits being displayed. It looks like somebody had taken to his house, I don't know, to give to his children and the neighbors or what. Nobody has said much of it. We saw that man being handled in court, and ever since we haven't seen what came out of that. Our country, for some reason, not the country, because Kenyans are very hardworking people. I can tell you that for free. Anywhere they go, very, very smart people. But our leadership, for some reason, seems to be running everything and anything down. Look what growing up, Kenya was among the best in Africa and the world when it comes to cricket. We remember people like Steve Tikolo. Some of us, we were in primary school. And here in Australia, they're like, oh, Kenya were good in cricket. Steve Tikolo. You're like, huh? How do you know that?
Yeah.
Because they were world beaters. They were beating England. They were beating Australia. They were beating Zimbabwe and South Africa. That one disappeared for some reason. Rugby. Kenyans been amazing, beating almost everyone. Look what just happened. Soccer. Growing up, we used to see Gor Mahia and all these other being ran like a professional, sports organization. Now, Mwendwa is just, running around like headless chicken, making laws, and is the law unto himself. That's the problem with our country. We do not follow the rules. We establish policies. Nobody cares about it. Everything actually we do, we just do it just for the sake. Just either to benefit ourselves as an individual and never to benefit the country. I think, time to also take a good care of athletes. I've never seen a country where thousands of athletes compete globally, but they have nothing to show for it. Remember, most of our athletes, compete globally when they are when they're in high school or in university. Now, these people, when they're in high school, they're very young. They are not mature. They haven't learned anything about economics or savings or investments. Government should look into that, especially the sports department. These people need to have savings. Remember, when you're running or playing soccer or anything, any sport, you're very active only 10 years if you are very strong. Others less than 15. Some of us who are working will work for the next 30, 40 years. So can you compare that? And with us, we'll be saving. With them, they might blow it. And we've seen a lot of issues in Eldoret about athletes who are just running around the street. They have nothing. It's about time we take care of our heroes and not just praise them when we burying them and when they bring gold.
Okay. All right. Joel Arama.
Gerald, first of all, I will tell you this. Whenever there is a Kenyan competing anywhere, and I'm near TV, I will stop what I'm doing, watch, cheer, yell, scream, because those are my people. The name doesn't matter. Sometimes I get confused nowadays because we are all over the place, like Keeper said. So that, like today, the first thing I saw was Chelimo, and I was like, yay, Kenyan. And then I was, oh, no, he's Uganda. So, but he's still a Kenyan.
Yeah.
So, to me, for the life of me, I don't understand why you will cheer or ridicule of your fellow countrymen when they went out there to compete, even if they did not succeed or they did not achieve what you wanted them to achieve, but at least they went. So, it reminds me, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day of this story where we used to talk. People would say they were in a stadium and this guy was criticizing the player, and I said, oh, kama ni mimi hiyo mpira ningepiga the other side, and then people are looking at the guy funny. And then somebody said, you know why? Oh, because the guy didn't have legs.
Wow.
But he was criticizing the soccer players on the field. So, I can't run. I mean, I can run long distance. I can try. But for the life of me, there are so many things I can't do as a sportsman. These guys they work so hard to go represent our country. And Gerald, you'll be surprised if the audit comes, you will find out all those officials, the money they are supposed to be getting daily, they were paid in advance before they left the country. They left the money in their accounts in Kenya before they went. They were already paid. But our athletes, they are going to come back. Some of them have not been paid. Some of them will not be paid for 2 years, for 3 years. They will be chasing their money each and every day. Watakuwa hiyo ofisi ya NOCK every week looking for their money. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it why we should not be proud of our people and actually support them the right way. Pay them well. We are not even paying them. This is just a token of appreciation. Because that's how some of these people, when they appearance fee peke yake, like Eliud Kipchoge appearance fee peke yake is more than $3 million US. Just appearance fee. Sasa mtu wewe unaenda unampatia $100 kukimbia Rio, and then you and even your $100 you don't want to pay him 10,000 Kenya shillings. What is that to him? But it's not about the money. It's you appreciating what he's doing on behalf of the country. Now, when you pay somebody whose work is just to go sit and some of them, they don't even do the Instagram. They take the money, they go around shopping, buying everything, and still they don't use their money. They still charge the same shopping wamenunua, personal shopping. They still charge to the government accounts or the Olympic accounts. For your personal expenses, you charge to the Olympic account again. And our athletes wako hapo, some of them, like what Keeper said, they were given a kit for competition, which were given by companies like Nike. They didn't buy them.
Then people are wearing it in the village.
Mtu anaenda anaweka kwa nyumba ati for what? I mean, even if they didn't use it, at least go and donate in a school somewhere for kids to enjoy. Why are you keeping in the house? Utakuwa unabadilisha, ukienda kuoga unavaa moja, ukitoka ukienda kwa shamba unavaa ingine. Some of these things don't even make sense. And it's hard time for me. I think we need to take serious action against these officials. There should be serious punishment, serious jail time, so that people have to learn. Some countries, Gerald, ukienda Asia, for corruption, some of them people are being killed for just corruption. Ile si ati ni pesa mingi, mtu ameenda tu kwa ofisi ukamwambia hey, you go to jail for many years. Now as we are robbing, including hata mtu anaenda anaiba baka anajiba yeye mwenyewe. Ile whatever you're supposed to be paid, you steal from yourself also. I don't get it, Gerald. This is one thing that I believe for a long time we always stood together as Kenyans when any of our countrymen were out there competing. Hata kama ni Gor Mahia walikuwa wanaenda kucheza mpira huko, when people who don't even like soccer, unasikia ni Gor Mahia, on that day sisi wote ni Gor Mahia fans. They go compete. People who are running, man, we need to support our people. I don't get it. And if you are going to be so petty that unaanza kuita watu tangatanga just because they didn't win a race, then I think you have misplaced priorities, and those are not people I will not even hold my breath to discuss with them anything. At that point, you cease to exist for me.
What happened to our patriotism and common sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me?
Okay.
All right. So first and foremost, to answer about patriotism and common sense, really, I will also start by saying that sporting is a career like any other. And in Kenya, there's always that sort of a way of us doing things that some careers are better than others. But if you look at developing countries, you'll see someone, a young lady like Naomi Osaka. She's of Haiti and Japanese heritage, but she lives in America. You can see that even recently she had a Netflix documentary about her work. You can see how people support her work. You can see girls, young ladies like Simone Biles or Simona Biles. I think she's a gymnast. You can see how even the amount of weight na ile uzito country yake inamchukua nayo. In Kenya, I think it's a wake-up call to everybody to look at the arts, kama music, sports, athletes, to be treated as a career like any other. And also, it still goes back to what we were talking about in politics, to talk about institutions. These are sporting institutions in Afakwa. You know, there have been debates like, does Kenya need strong men or strong institutions? I believe we need strong institutions so that in the Izo Olympics that 2024 or 2025, I don't know when, kutakuwa na structures that for every athlete mwenye anaenda, this is the amount of allowance they need, this is the minimum money they need for per diem allowances and all, so that it does not keep changing, so that we don't constantly hear these demotivating stories about corruption. But then again, speaking of patriotism, when people say be patriotic, then it is also mad with hypocrisy, because then does it mean that those of us who might feel a need to criticize the country do not love our country? So then patriotism is more of a give and take. You can't help but be patriotic to your country where your art and your craft is respected, where ministry officials of your country are taking care of your health. I saw in the US, for example, the gymnast said that I'm not able to participate because of my mental health. And I saw the whole country coming in her support and saying, that is very bold of you. So then, how come people are expected to be blanketly patriotic to their country? That does not seem patriotic to them. So for me, I think a patriotic relationship is a symbiotic relationship where you see the officials of your country are really working hard to help you, and you also can't help but be patriotic to your country. But in Kenya, you really struggle to be patriotic.
Ni ngumu kwa mzalendo. Mundalo.
I think the whole conversation about the sport is generally a leadership issue. And I disagree with Wanja when she says what we need is strong institutions. I think Kenya has some of the strongest institutions. We just have the bad people leading these institutions. That is the whole problem. Because when you look at our institutions, by the way, we would rank maybe highest, if not among the highest, even in Africa today. We have good laws, we have good systems, we have good institutions. Like when you talk about now the case of the police, there is IPOA that is supposed to be taking. Those are institutions. The problem that we have is the management of these institutions. That we are just not willing to bite the bullet and just do the right thing. We are just not willing to ignore the 2 coins and the 3 shillings that we want to be given on the side to just take care of our job and our mandate. And we don't want to just face the reality and say, when we are talking athletics, the number 1 priority person here is the athlete. That is the number 1 priority person. We don't want to face that reality. Once we're able to come to terms with the reality, once we're able to have the right people in these offices, then the right thing will be done. because we already have the institutions. They exist. The problem is who is leading these institutions? What are their values? Yeah. Do they even understand the sport themselves? Do they understand what they are in charge of? This is a country where at one point we had a foreign affairs, an interior cabinet secretary who could not just give us data of how many people have died in Westgate and how many are alive. And we kept mixing these issues. So sometimes it's just about, can't we get the right people into the right office? Let us stop getting people into office based on political affiliation, psychophancy, and how much we know them, and ethnicity. I think that is the whole problem that we have. And it cuts across from the sports sector to every other sector. That is the problem that we have.
Okay. Wanja,
Yes, please.
it's another conmanship season. It's here. The transfer window is open, and also the politicos out here roaming. You are part of the Jubilee. You are part of the Jubilee manifesto. Quite
The
literally.
launch.
Yes.
The launch, yes.
And you represented us as young people. And you spelled out a lot of promises that were in the manifesto. It's time again, the people who vote in this country, and statistics show that the largest population that voter population is the young people. It doesn't really move. They used to be women, now it's young people, youth. It's another time again where they come and tell us all these things. First of all, I'd want to get a feeling from you, from someone who participated in the making of the government, and drove the agenda of the manifesto that was out here. Are you satisfied? After Kasarani, how did your life look like? After you left Kasarani that evening, up to date.
Gerald, I think when you say you participated in the formation of the government,
No, we had you, and you're like, hey, talking about 1 million jobs per year.
how you put
Technology
it,
centers.
how you put it, you've.
No,
but
clarify. Maybe I got the wrong
Yeah,
impression.
you're
You
the
can
journalist,
clarify.
really, on a very light note.
You can clarify.
I would
Sorry.
start by saying that whenever people say, Wanja, you are there, Wanja, you are not there, I think first and foremost, I usually like to congratulate myself, because not every day that you'll get other people congratulating you, that at an age of 25, 26 at the time, I had really acted. There is always that rallying call for young people to be involved in the politics.
Yeah.
So personally, I didn't want to sit in the bylines and talk on the periphery. I rose up and, I would say, stood up to the occasion by participating. It's debatable whether I was at the center or on the margins, but at least I woke up and I stood up against many odds.
Ongera for that.
So I think I big up myself for that, regardless of the position of that I took at the time, and even other young people who took bold stance at the time to participate in the politics of their country. So I think that's where I like us to start from.
Yes.
That I participated at the time. When the one of the challenges of the politics of Kenya, and that is what most people don't like to talk about, is that the nature of our political associations. And I might also start that every Kenyan has political rights, economic rights, social rights.
Yeah.
So even participating in politics is not bad. But the challenge and the challenge of our time now is that the nature of our political galvanization is along tribal and ethnic lines. Whether we like to accept it or not, it is almost assured that if you pick a random person who is a member of ODM, without too much semantics, that person is a Luo.
Yeah.
If you go to, for example, you can easily place a person by virtue of their political association. And I think that is the challenge of our time. And some people will say, politics is about self-interest and self-preservation. Why would you go to another political party where you are not welcome because the people of your tribe are not members of that political party? So it's the dilemma of our time where we are being told that we should rise up and stand and be counted on ideals, on values, but on the ground is that politics and galvanization is along tribal lines. That is the reality of our country. At the time we were hopeful. At the time we were persuaded, and also now it would depend on the individual youth whom you'll ask if they benefited and if they're happy with the scorecard. For example, if there's a young person who has been nominated by the president, and we saw the president nominated 6 CASs who are young people, certainly those are the young people who would say that the youth scorecard is going on well. If you look at the young people who benefited from the Kazi Mtaani project, where they were earning around 400 and something shillings a day, if you speak depending on their current economic status, they would say they are happy. So it's debatable depending on which side of the coin you are in. But I also realize that political participation is an ongoing journey. The structures of our country have not been very much open-minded to youth meaningful engagement. So you'll find, like, even when you see people talking about the youth and democracy, the youth are constantly put at the side of violence. Young people is a youth bulge, is a demographic dividend, it will erupt. But for us, we are not interested in erupting because we're interested and we love our country. We're interested in participating and making meaningful participation. So certainly the question is not a yes or no. There are those who are happy. There are also those who are talking about, being disenfranchised. Those are the realities considering the percentage of unemployment. But really not to be specific about Jubilee, because now, it will be really specific. I think it will be a broader discussion on youth unemployment in Kenya. It's also happening in other parts of Africa. South Africa, we saw what's happening. So it's really a broader discussion about youth unemployment. Yeah.
What's your feeling so far from the government? Do you feel it has taken enough keen interest in the issues of youth? You said you are hopeful. There are things you saw then that gave you hope. Do you feel that materialized?
I would say seeing 6 young people who are CASs, who are, I would call them young assistant ministers. I think for me that is a step in the right direction. Opening up of, I remember recently the cabinet secretary for youth formed a youth advisory board where he has young people who will be advising him. Certainly that is something positive. But I also personally, and I raised it about, let's say, something like Kazi Mtaani, which was good because at the time the young people had the shocks of coronavirus. But, as a young person with a disability, I was asking myself, I remember the PS had written on his Twitter, he was talking about able-bodied young people, what. And for me, I was asking, so the country puts a lot of premium in physical ability to work. And obviously, if you look at the young people who are most disenfranchised, are the young people with disabilities who cannot do this kind of manual works and these kind of programs. So those are also the challenges where there are also structural discrimination, where young people with disabilities who love to work for their country are constantly, there are a lot of barriers that keep them off in participating. But then again, I've seen attempts to reform, let's say, the National Youth Council, which I think is a step in the right direction. There's also, what I'm also admiring is there's some beauty in the civil society where the young people it's not really about the whole antagonism with the government. I've been in spaces where there's young people giving memorandums. I remember during the BBI discussions, I was part of, through the mentorship of Honorable Pulisira Nyokabi, there was a group of women who made a memo to be presented to the BBI task force, for example. And I remember before us was a group of young people across the political divide that also had their presentations to the BBI. Okay, regardless of whether we support the BBI or not, at least I saw a level of civic responsibility. So it is debatable. Is the percentage of youth unemployment high? Yes. Was it even made worse by coronavirus? Yes. Did we anticipate coronavirus at the time? Obviously, it's a no, because corona...
But before corona, we've always had huge issues. I mean, this excuse of saying every day, everything corona. Corona.
It just exacerbated what has always been there. So that's...
Ni kama mtu mwenye akona nini yako, anakuambia ngoja corona ishi. Corona sahi ana celebrate birthday ya 2 years.
But anyway, I also, just for the records, I don't think I hold brief for Jubilee government. I also think that, people can be members of political parties and then change their minds. So I was just reflecting, yeah.
Okay. There's an interesting comment because let's look at this. Most of the guys who have been appointed by Jubilee are people who are mouthpieces of politicians in Jubilee campaigns. Yes. Every other person, if you look at the young people who have been given positions, there are people who are making noise for candidates there. Yeah. And there's an interesting comment here from Gitao, and he's saying, Asulu just appointed young women as strong government positions and not necessarily campaign enthusiasts like the CSs we have. I mean, they just upgraded the sycophants and gave them something to do. We are not seeing, a reasonable or a credible formula of appointments. They're like, oh, you made the most noise. And in fact, now these other guys are getting motivation. The more you insult political leaders, the more you're probably going to land a position.
Yes.
So, Mundalo, can we probably get a proper approach on how we can fix youth issues and not turn the middle also reward schemes, where we are seeing also people rewarding they said side chicks through that haze, and their sycophants and people insulting people on their behalf. How do we leverage to ensure that the youth have a fair play in terms of governance?
I think the term youth is one of the most misused terms in the politics of this country. And this aspect of what is owed to the youth is also largely misused. Because you look at it and look at even the nominations that we are having. Some political parties, it's not now about a qualified youth who needs to be given an office, who can be able to do the work that is supposed to be done. But officers are looking at it and looking and saying, okay, by the way, we need a nomination for a youth. Then they just look for anyone can look for their girlfriend, and that becomes a youth. Then that docket is filled. Or somebody just looks for one of their, it can be your son or your whatever it is. Then you just put it there. So the problem is that, in as much as we are trying to take a step in the right direction, and I would want to credit the Jubilee government for its, I think since independence, one of the governments that has really invested and given opportunity to the young people to deliver. But it's also important for us to look at the capacity of the young people that want to put into office. Because it is not just about having a young person in office. I think that does not solve the problems of the millions of young people. Once you put one young person in office. But it's about having a young person who can deliver on the mandate that is given at that point. Because you look at it, and I agree with you that you're saying political sycophancy was one of the biggest reasons for appointments. And that is unfortunate, because that was not supposed, the yardstick would have been apart from political persuasion, because we cannot rule out political persuasion from it. We cannot rule it out, because the Jubilee government can only be able to also give at least 80% chances to a Jubilee a youthful force, because they have youth within the party. But then it should be about the people, the young people who are able to qualify. And I have a problem with also the appointments of we, the young people. Sometimes the young people are also not making it easy for governments to continue serving us. Because the problem is, we have a young person in office, Gerald. But then the performance of this young person in office is extremely questionable. We are having young people who are in office, instead of doing the work they are supposed to be doing, they are concentrating on the political work that brought them into office. That you are saying...
They are still stuck there.
They are still stuck there. If you insulted politicians to the highest and the toppest of your voice to get into office, into appointment, you get into the office and continue the work that you are doing before you got into the office. Now that is where the problem is. Now the public looks at us and then wonders, okay, fine, we want to give the young people opportunity. But is
now,
this what we want?
Representation.
The problem is, we have millions of young people outside here who are qualified to do a lot of things and who can do tremendous work. But they are not being seen. Those who are appointed should have the audacity to know that they are the mirror of the rest of the young people. What they do there then determines whether Gerald is going to hire a young person and bring them at Trio Media. Because they look at the young people who can be seen. We have those who are already there. They act as the mirror of the rest of the young people. So it is important that when you are given an office as a young person, please defend, if you cannot defend your own name, defend the name of the youth, so that courtesy of you, more organizations and companies and political parties and governments can be able to put more trust in the young people. Let us not get into office, then we continue with the work that we were doing before we got appointed. And I also like debunking the theory that of putting the youth into boards. I do not necessarily think that the youth's position should always be the boards and appointing them into all these boards. The youth are an energetic population. What they need is to be at the point of implementation to move the country forward. If we are having a young person as a CEO, for example, of a company, he is able to ensure that this company is able to move in the direction more than if you have him as a chairman of a board, so that he comes to meetings twice or thrice a month. Honestly, A youthful population of people who are very energetic cannot be working 3 times in a whole month. Let us more or less put the youth more at implementation stages, stages that really run the engine of the government. Then now for these boards, we can put people who, once you gather some experience, you now come to the board and advise the youth. But taking the youth, then you start with the board. I think in as much as it makes us happy and the youth get happy and we celebrate that on social media, I don't think that really should be the position of the youth. And therefore, to take care of this, the first thing we need to do as young people, let us start with those who have had the opportunity to serve. Please serve to the best of your knowledge so that you provide opportunity to the others, because you are the mirror of the rest of us. That is what we should start with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know if I have Joel. I still have Joel Arama and Joel Kipps on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. I'll start with you, Joel Kipps, and then go to Arama. Then we close the broadcast.
Okay, I think on the issues to do with youth, we have ourselves to blame. When it comes to elections, we end up choosing old guards. We pick people based on how deep their pockets are. Of course, running any election or running for any office is costly in itself. We saw Boniface Mwangi trying to run for political office.
Yeah.
Guess what happened? He wasn't voted in because he was asking for funding from the electorate. That should be actually what we do. If you're running for political office, ask for funding from the electorate, because you are not going to serve yourself, you're going to serve those people. Youth are to blame themselves. We cannot be blaming president and the elected officials, yet we do not elect ourselves.
Okay.
We've also seen young elected leaders. They do not go there and talk for us. They go there and talk for their partners. They talk for other political leaders, especially the old guards or the godfathers. We've had a lot of people talk of godfathers. Yes, it looks like even the young people like us, we have the godfathers who will go there and defend them. It's unfortunate, but we have no one to blame but ourselves. If we give people jobs based on merit, and experience and expertise, our country is going to move forward. I hope one day we'll be able to elect people based on qualifications, expertise, and what they can offer, and not how deep their pockets are. Yep.
Okay. Joel Arama.
Gerald, the first thing that I would address about the youth is, can we and I say this is general as Kenya, but especially with the youth, can we get to a point whereby you and I having a difference in political views does not equate us fighting physically?
Okay.
So if I'm supporting the other person, that does not translate that you need to come and beat me to within inches of my life. Let's have a difference in politics. And if you're being given money to go and campaign for somebody, tukutane pale kwa kibanda bwana, ninunulie chapati mandondo, nikule na wewe uende nyumbani, and life goes on. So let's be smart and work together. No matter what side of the political divide you are going to be, let's still work together. Remember, at the end of the day, we are neighbors, we are friends, or we come from the same area. When you have a problem, and with the person you're going to call for help, the politician is not going to be there to help you. And if you call them, they will show up one time and that's it. But at the end of the day, every morning, or every time of the week, the first person you're going to call for help is the person next to you, or your neighbor, or your friend, or your classmate, schoolmate. No matter what political side they're on, those are still the people you're going to go back to. And we should not create enmity, like serious enmity, because we voted for somebody different than the other person. My vote is my vote. My political views are my political views, but that does not extend to a place whereby we cannot speak to each other, or when you see me coming from the other side, you feel like you want to kill me because I voted for somebody else. And to echo what Keeper said, we are the ones to blame ourselves. And I'm saying we, at one point, I don't want to say I'm a young person anymore, but at one point I was there. So was I supporting a fellow young person who was running for office? No. So we need to be smarter than that. And even if we are going to vote for those same people, so-called old guards, but let's make sure that they understand the power of our vote. In other words, it should not be just because somebody come and threw some money around, then when they get into office, they don't owe us anything because they gave us money. Okay. So alikupatia yako, wacha aende atengeneze pesa yake. That is, we need to move from that so that every time they realize, if I don't do the right thing, these guys, even if I bring all the money I want to bring in the world, they're still not going to vote for me. Yeah. If we get to that point, and Gerald, I'm hoping the next coming election, we are not going to elect people because of their popularity or affiliation with certain parties that we support. But we are going to vote, especially our local leaders, MCAs, MPs, senators. Can we vote for people we know who are actually going to do something for us, not just because they support one party? Because for me, honestly, Gerald, I would say this, where I come from, let's say, for example, in Kisii, Nyamira, I would love to see somebody voting, maybe, the popular party there most of the time is ODM. Yeah. I would like to see people voting for somebody from another party because that person is espousing ideology and good leadership skills, not because they're affiliated to a certain party. Okay. So that people don't take us for granted. If we do that, then we have a hope. If we don't, it's just going to be a continuous cycle. We will be here again after the next election talking about the same thing. A year down the line, we'll be complaining whether it's UDA in office or anybody else. If we don't put in the right people, we'll be back here again complaining about the same thing. And the cycle continues.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen in Diaspora, for joining us this morning. I know it could be evening there. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Diaspora and Rongai. Hi. And thank you also, Wanja, for coming in. I hope to see you again.
I'm really happy to have come. Asanteni sana to the people who are watching. Do I have a minute to reflect? Okay. When people are talking about the young people, I've always really pushed back against this narrative at, indeed there's a youth badge, yes, but this narrative to show that because there are very many young people, it's a dangerous trend. I think that it should be debunked. It is also, it's also a human resource. It's a group of people who can be supported and nurtured. Okay. Just to also reflect and say that when people are talking about the next election and associating young people with danger, my question is, who benefits when the young people are disparaged or when they are fighting? So at least we have people like the National Cohesion, and I believe they know their job. And moving forward, I think as much as there's a need to nip it at the bud, the hate speech and that kind of language, there's also need for them to appreciate the young people who are influencers online, who are preaching peace. But last but not least, I think young people belong everywhere. They belong in boardrooms. They belong, you started by saying kazi ni kazi, mboka ni mboka. They also belong in the informal sectors. And it's high time we also change our attitudes. They are willing, and the young people I meet are always willing to engage. There's just a need for an equal opportunity, remove the barriers here and there, and they'll be good. And in the coming elections, I'm anticipating a place where we have a lot of young people elected in office. Yes.
Okay. All right. Your minute, Mundalo.
Yeah, thank you so much to our listeners and everybody who has been part of this conversation. I think one thing we need to be sure about is that irregardless of the challenges we talk about, irregardless of the challenges we talk about in the country, we are moving in the right direction. Because when you compare our challenges with most of the countries in Africa and beyond, we are moving in the right direction. So despite the fact that we are really talking about them, does not make us very bad. So we must still remain positive and optimistic to keep building the nation in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Asante sana. Thank you so much, guys who have been online, the guys who have been watching on YouTube. I really appreciate you. Guys on Facebook as well. It's been a pleasure having you. Without you, the tackle could never be. That's what I usually tell you. Bila nyinyi, tackle haipo. And I hope to see you again tomorrow on Sheria Wiki. Dr. Ekuro Kot and Dr. Singoe. Kesho ni siku ya madaktari tu. Mimi pia ni daktari. Daktari wa mitishamba. I see you again tomorrow, guys. Have a very good afternoon. It is a throwback Thursday. Mambo ni yale. Naangalia pia, the more things change in Kenya, the more they remain the same. In fact, I keep wondering why we have TBTs, because our past is our present.
Yes, and even the current political happenings, ukizi trace,
so
there is historical precedent,
very predictable,
the place of deputy president, succession politics. Kwa hivyo, the more things remain, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Yeah. We are progressively in the past until tomorrow. See you. Take care and enjoy your day. This is a tackle, and it ends now. We love you.